In Guatemala, there's a lot of crime. I had to leave because over there you're more likely to get shot than to find a job. I came here looking for job opportunities. Yo vine con mi mamá y mi hermanita a los Estados Unidos hace 14 años porque queríamos escapar de toda la violencia que había en Colombia. Cuando yo tenía 10 años, mi mamá y yo tomamos el autobús para regresar a nuestra casa cuando nuestro autobús fue secuestrado. 5 hombres armados irrumpieron el autobús y nos obligaron a descender nuestras pertenencias. Cuando era el turno de mi mamá de entregarle sus cosas, uno de esos hombres me apuntó su arma en mi cara. Pero yo no tenía miedo porque en Colombia, después de que tengas algo que ofrecerle a los delincuentes, pues estás bien. Pero si no tienes nada que ofrecerle, pues ahí es que te matan. Y los tompos, pues ellos no nos protegen. Yo pienso que después de esa experiencia mi mamá sabía que era hora de salir de allá. Yo dejé El Salvador por toda la pobreza. Mi familia y yo no estábamos muriendo de hambre. Yo vine acá por necesidad de comer. I grew up in Guatemala and practically raised my little siblings. I had a tough childhood. Sometimes there was no food, but with some creativity we were able to get by. Taking care of the babies, we would give them some bread and water. But when there was no bread, we would take a torn shirt, put a sugar cube in it, and knot it as it were a baby pacifier and gave them to my siblings who were hungry so they would think they were eating something and go to sleep. I always knew I had to get out of that poverty so I could help my family someday. Yo siempre he soñado con ir a la universidad y ser la primera en mi familia en graduarme y tener un diploma. Pero eso no era posible, aunque sea no en El Salvador, donde hay muchas pandillas. Donde yo vivía, habían 2 pandillas en cada esquina de mi vecindario. Y si yo quería ir a la universidad, pues yo tendría que cruzar uno de esos territorios de esas pandillas. Y eso era muy peligroso para mí porque en El Salvador las mujeres son violadas por miembros de pandilla. Y si yo quería cruzar, y si yo cruzaba uno de esos territorios, pues es como pedir que me violaran. Así que cuando escuché de un amigo que una caravana de inmigrantes se estaba formando, se los conté a mis papás. Y unos días después nos empacamos unas bolsas con 4 cambios de ropa, fotos, documentos de identificación y el poquito dinero que teníamos y nos juntamos a la caravana. Yo me vine acá hace 4 años porque mi país está cabrón, carnal. Ahí el país de uno no vale la pena vivir. Nuestro presidente se ha pasado de lanza con nosotros. Hazte cuenta que él quita la amarra, pero es para seguir gobernando su mismo gobierno de delincuente que tiene. Por eso yo me fui. Yo tenía una bodega y la perdí por la extorsión. Y no había nadie con quien reportarlo. En Honduras la policía es toda corrupta y no puedes confiar en ellos. Nadie está a salvo en mi país. Hazte cuenta que unos días antes que yo me fuera, un cipote fue asesinado y lo dejaron tirado ahí en la calle en mi vecindario. A pesar que muchos paisanos dicen que porque uno viene acá a morir, pero yo nunca he tenido miedo a la muerte, pues cuando toca, toca. Y uno prefiere morir intentando de cruzar aquí que morir allá como el mismo vato ese. Yo vine acá para buscar una mejor vida para mi hijo y mi esposa. When I left Mexico con mi jefa and my baby sister, I was 12. That day, my grandpa drove us to the bus station. We traveled day and night. When it was time to cross the line, we had to walk. We walked with 22 other strangers on the desert with the help of the coyote. I remember getting sick and couldn't stop coughing, and one of the coyotes threatened mi jefa to kill me if I didn't stop coughing. When I turned 17, I made the decision to leave Guatemala and move to Los Angeles. Before moving to Los Angeles, I had to cross the border 3 times. The first time was on the desert, where I witnessed 3 brothers die of dehydration. And none of us could help them because we were all under the same conditions. The second time was by the river, where we got caught by ice, and I was deported back to Mexico because I had some papers from a Mexican. The third time, I went back to the border, where I paid a corrupt man who worked at the frontier, and I was able to successfully cross by car. Nosotros nos reunimos tarde en El Salvador del Mundo para acampar por la noche. Ahí habían sábanas tiradas en el suelo y nuestras mochilas nos servían como almohadas. Mapas y meriendas fueron pasados alrededor y nosotros nos aseguramos de aprendernos la ruta hacia el norte. En la mañana siguiente nos levantamos temprano, como a las 8, y empezamos a caminar con más de 2,000 personas. Nosotros nos fuimos al oeste del centro de San Salvador y una y otra vez habían carros que nos pasaban y nos tiraban bolsas con botellas de agua. Mientras seguíamos caminando, más gente se seguía uniendo a nosotros. Por día caminábamos, nadamos y pedíamos a los extraños que nos llevaran en sus carros. Y claro, que estábamos bajo la advertencia del presidente Trump de mandar sus tropas a la frontera para que no nos dejaran entrar. Eso no nos molestaba a mí ni a mi familia. Pensábamos, lo que pase, pase. Si nos paraba la patrulla fronteriza o no, si cruzábamos o no, estábamos en nuestras mentes de salir de El Salvador. Y si nos mandaban atrás, pues no problema, íbamos a intentar otra vez. Pero de que estábamos seguros de que íbamos a entrar aquí. De que entramos y aquí estamos. El inmigrante sufre mucho por venir aquí. Vienen golpeados y todo. En México lo tratan mal a uno. lo secuestran y tienes que pagar por secuestro. Tienes que pagar 7,000 a El Salvador, para México 2,000 y ya son 9,000. Llegas al Houston, Texas y el caballo te tiene secuestrado y tienes que pagarle otros 2,000. Hay una cadena de caballos agarrando inmigrantes en el lado de Houston, Texas. Agarran 200 personas para que les paguen y si no te quieren matar, pues los llevan a los americanos. When I first came here, I was nothing more than a frightened little girl who have run away with her mama and baby sister from Colombia to escape from all the violence and an abusive father. I was 11 when my family was granted political asylum. That same year we became residents and we had to wait another 5 years to apply for citizenship. My first impression when I came to America was that my mama and little sister were pretty much on our own, and we had to depend on each other's strength. I had to learn a new language and try to fit into a new culture. I also had to give up a part of my childhood to look after my little sister while Mama was out working. And even though my first year in school was hard because I didn't speak much English and I didn't know anyone, I always knew that my education was the only way I could help my family someday. When I first came here, I was so happy to be part of the American society. A society that embraces diversity and celebrates different cultures. A society that embraces you for who you are, or at least that's what I thought until I started middle school. I was talking to a friend in Spanish when a white classmate came up to me and told me, "We're in America, speak English." His words kinda hurt me because I felt like I was being rejected for being from a different culture. And that's just one of the many pressures America puts on Hispanic people when they first come here. It feels like if you speak Spanish, then people see you as being unassimilated or uneducated. And such thinking, such perception makes you stand out, which is something you don't want when you are an illegal immigrant. So you try your best to become whatever America tells you to be. And despite trying your best to Americanize yourself, America will always find something that is wrong about you and remind you that you are not one of them. I mean, if I speak Spanish, I am not American. But if I speak English, I am not American enough because I'm a brown Latina, which means I'll never be white enough to be considered a true American. And despite knowing that, you still try your best to fit in. You try to dress, dance, and talk like them, but if you become too much like them, then now your Latina identity is being brought to question. it feels like your whole identity is being split in a half, and America is trying to force you to pick between one. And it's hard because I am not just one thing, I am both. I'm a proud Latina and American. Este verano yo me enfermé con el COVID, pero no me pude hacer el examen porque no tenía papel ni seguro social. Ese es el problema de ser un inmigrante. Aquí el sistema, si no tienes papeles ni seguro social, no puedes ir al hospital. Vas al hospital y ellos no te quieren atender porque no tienes seguro social. También, no eres contratado como inmigrante, las compañías de trabajo no te quieren pagar el seguro médico porque estás trabajando sin papeles. Y eso es un problema si te enfermas. Los medicamentos aquí y cuidados médicos son muy caros si no tienes seguro social. Vas a un doctor específico, la clínica hispana te atiende y estamos hablando de $1,800 por una consulta, 4 vacunas y 6 pastillas para que te recuperes del COVID. Eso es lo inconveniente de no tener seguro social aquí. Las medicinas te cuestan aproximadamente como 180, pero si yo tuviera un seguro social, pues podría ir a la Publix, donde me puede costar a mí como $7. Eso es una gran diferencia en que aquí el sistema te explota por ser un inmigrante. I came to the United States when I was 7. My mother worked in a garment factory, and my father worked delivering restaurant supplies. Together, they pinched monies to pay for daily expenses. Towards the end of middle school, I decided to go to school with some of my new friends. That morning, I left home with my school bag filled to the top and came back home to find my mother furiously sobbing on her bed. The school had called her to signal her my absence. My father turned around, and just as his hand reached towards my face, it redirected to his chest, almost to take away the pain I had caused. It was the first time I realized that by skipping school, I was throwing away the opportunities my parents came here to pursue. My parents work below minimum jobs 7 days a week. In exchange, their children reap the fruit of their sacrifices, the privilege of an education, and a chance at the American dream. When I reached college, I was denied a full-ride scholarship despite fulfilling its academic requirement, just because I didn't have a social security number. I decided to go to affordable college where I blazed through the classes and worked 4 part-time jobs, never knowing whether my diploma would amount anything other than a piece of paper. Mi experiencia de ser un inmigrante ha sido agridulce, buena y triste. Buena en el sentido de que yo vine aquí a mejorarme, a trabajar y a aprender nuevas habilidades. Triste en el sentido de que, porque no hay nada de qué comer en mi país, yo tuve que dejar a mi familia. Por eso yo me fui. Pero aquí los americanos no lo ven así. Ellos piensan que tú eres un malvado y violador. Cuando hay muchas personas que vienen aquí para mejorarse, tener una vida mejor y ayudar a sus familias que están sufriendo en sus países. Pero lamentablemente el americano no lo ve así. Nosotros estamos tristes por el racismo y por el miedo. La policía y el ICE no nos dejan trabajar. Puedes estar trabajando y en cualquier momento ICE puede venir y llevarte. Nadie puede ser feliz. Vivimos en constante miedo de ser deportados y dejar a la familia que hicimos aquí.
But when I ask the people that know more about the border than anybody, how important is the wall? And they told me it is absolutely vital. And in other words, it is a vital tool, an important tool, and maybe the most important tool to build a wall. We had no choice. We had no choice.
How? And the wall is built. I want to work there. I'm the silent majority. I'm the person who's been waiting for someone to get into politics. Trump is 10 steps ahead of everyone. If I could say something to Donald Trump, I would say, I love you. I love you. And thank you very much. I really don't regret voting for you. I think of myself as a happy soldier. You know, someone who wants to make a difference in the right places. That's why I say I'm a happy soldier. You know, once you decide you want to be a soldier for America and you join, you're basically gonna be fighting in whatever war they decide to get into. So that's why I say I'm a happy soldier. What do I think about illegal immigrants? I think of someone who should be punished. Someone who broke the law. I have broken the law before I've been punished for it. We as a society should be able to say who comes into our country and who doesn't. We as a country should be able to say, I'm sorry, we don't want your beggars and your criminals. We want your doctors and the people who are going to benefit, but also going to give back into our society. I remembered I called my parents a million times. I was at school and I was really excited. I was really excited to tell them about being asked to the prom. And at that moment, their cars were there, dinner was started, and the lights were on, and I couldn't find them. So it was really hard. And then the neighbors came in and they told me, I'm so sorry, but your parents were taken away. And I just broke down. I remember I hid under the bed because I was so afraid someone was going to come for me. I didn't know who that person was, but I was just so scared. I mean, what do you do? I was so scared for them, for what they were going through. I mean, my parents are going to jail, and for what? I didn't consider them criminals. My success story as a dreamer, it is only possible because DACA allowed American employers to invest in me. For the first time, I was given a meaningful identity in this country. My parents didn't get that chance. For years, I went on to tell this country about my impressive resume, my extensive list of community service, awards, recognition, and other achievements. This was my model American story. And while it demystifies some conservative narrative, it also pushed young people like myself further up the pedestal. This of course didn't last long because Trump administration revoked that policy. In a flash, my identity became a target, and the rest of the dreamers became a political bargaining chip. Once again, the immigration debate turned into a toxic narrative, pitting people like my parents against their own children, the worthy DACA recipients. Meanwhile, the rest of the undocumented population is left in the shadows. While DACA has given me a meaningful standing in America, it has also robbed me of my most authentic identity. I am the child of undocumented immigrants and the product of undocumented struggle. This is Esmeralda, and this is her daughter Rose. She came here. How old when you came into this country? I was 2 years old. And you're a DACA recipient. You sign up? Do you do a background check? Yes. You were fingerprinted. Do you have a job? Yes. You pay taxes. Yes. You go to nursing school? Yes. How many of you think it would be right for Esmeralda to be sent back to a country that she has never known? Well, I don't think it would be right, but it would be legal for her to go back to Mexico and then apply like everybody else. I did it myself. I'm a happy of legal migration. Okay? That's a fair point. So, Michael, come on in. So, Michael, have a seat right there. So, Michael is Esmeralda's fiance and Rose's dad. So, Michael, why don't you tell us about your job? I was born and raised in Kansas, deep down the beautiful country. I was raised a strong conservative. I work in the mass prison. My part-time job, I'm a United States soldier for the Army National Guard. So Michael is being deployed soon, which leaves his daughter and fiance behind, which means his fiance could be sent back to Mexico while he is overseas. So do you think a man who is serving this country and is an active member of the military should be treated like this? First of all, that little girl cannot be deported. I think she should be deported. She needs to go back to her own country and work on fixing her own country. And if she wants to come back here legally, that's his responsibility to figure out how she's gonna get back here. So, as a former military guy, you don't feel that a fellow veteran and a fellow military man First of all, she can go back and then come in legally. You know that if she goes back, it could take 10 years for her to get her green card. And she will have to stay in Mexico. I will get an immigration attorney. Yes. We can agree to disagree, but I know you will concur with me that we live in the most compassionate, loving, and exceptional country. No, I don't agree with that. I think this country has become cruel. I mean, look at this woman and her husband who is in the military. Where is your compassion?
As everyone knows, the United States of America has been invaded by hundreds of thousands of people coming through Mexico. This sustained influx of illegal aliens has profound consequences on our national life, overcrowding our schools, overwhelming our hospitals, draining our welfare system, and causing untold amount of crime. It must end now.
On August 3, 2019, a white gunman at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas, shot many Latinos' lives before later surrendering to the police. He killed 22 people and injured many more. He told the police he targeted Mexican immigrants and had produced a manifesto that declared this is a response to the Hispanic invasion of Texas. All of a sudden, in the middle of us laughing and having a good time, they started shooting. But we didn't know they were gunshots. It sounded like someone was throwing black cats at the street. But then we noticed that no, they're gunshots. So I just yelled, "Throw yourself on the floor," and we all threw ourselves on the floor. We have nowhere to go. There was nowhere we could have gotten out of there, so I hid behind the SUV. The man was just 2 cars away from us, just shooting. And I saw him reload his gun, and then he go blood and came straight at us, and he shot us 8 rounds, and I had to pretend I was dead, and he was just right next to me, and all I could think of was, God, please take care of my children and my daughter, and don't let him hurt any of the girls in our team. What he did to us was something so ugly. To me, he wasn't breathing hard. He was just the calmest person ever. He didn't say anything, just plain hatred and anger. You know what I think of President Trump? Well, he's a racist, sexist, a murderer. Yes, a murderer. That's what I think. Take a Paso shooting, for example. Trump said that we were aliens invading the country, and what happened? One of his followers took a gun and shot many Latinos' lives because he thought we were invading Texas. You see, Trump may not have been the one who held that gun and shot it, but he was the one who gave the command to kill the moment that he put a fear of an invasion to his followers. Words can be just as deadly as any weapon.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're bringing people who have a lot of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. Sadly, the overwhelming amount of crime in our major city is committed by Blacks and Hispanic. A top subject must be discussed.
El racismo viene más de la gente blanca, siendo racistas hacia la gente de color. El inmigrante no ve a la gente blanca como persona mala, pero el blanco ve a los hispanos y a los negros como gente mala. La diferencia entre el hispano y el negro es que la gente blanca no le agrada a la gente negra por la esclavitud. Pero sinceramente muchas personas no le agradan a los hispanos ni a los negros. Yo lo culpo por el presidente de este país, que ha dejado que el racismo siga y no le pone un paro. El hombre vino con ideas enfermas de racismo, de nazi. El hombre vino con ideas enfermas de nazi y de racismo, que ha dejado que muchas personas se dejen llevar por las cosas que él dice.
Trump has weaponized immigration policies and consistently insulted us and dehumanized Hispanic to the point that people don't see us as human beings, but as aliens. Alien. The word itself already isolates us from the rest of the people in here. I mean, if you hear someone say, an alien just got separated from his family. An alien is locked up in a small cell that is extremely cold, where the alien has nowhere bed to sleep on, so the alien has to sleep on the cold, hard floor with only aluminum paper as a blanket. Who is going to feel compassion for that? I mean, who is that alien? I don't know any aliens, so why should I care? But what if I replace the word alien with a man, woman, or a child? A child just got separated from his family. A child is locked up in a small cell that is extremely cold, where the child has nowhere bed to sleep on, so the child has to sleep on the cold, hard floor with only aluminum paper as a blanket. In which of the two contexts do you think a person is more likely to react and feel compassion? It is so easy for people to be cruel and lack compassion when they don't see you as a human being. The system, it is definitely broken. It doesn't serve its ad or intended purpose at all in any shape or form. It is a system that is rooted in a lot of racism and a lot of hatred towards people who are trying to make a better life for themselves. It is unholy and un-American to a vision rather than to a history. America was founded on immigrants after all. This anti-immigration policy, it doesn't serve any reasonable protection to the United States. It only rejects. It only roots itself on a lot of racism and continue a perpetual cycle to not help people assimilate here, but rather it tries to divide and separate all of us people, rather than trying to bringing us together as the melting pot that we should be. The Americans like to talk about how Latinos are all criminals, drug dealers, rapists. Those are the news people like to talk about and remember. You see, the news like to over-sensationalize crimes that are committed by Blacks and Latinos. Those are the crimes you often hear in the media, and those are the news people like to talk about and remember. But when a white commits a crime, those are the news people don't like to talk about or remember. Because if a white commits a crime, it's an error of judgment. It doesn't mean anything about the rest of the white people. But if a crime is committed by someone who is Black or Latino, it's suspected. It means everything about the rest of the Black and Latino people. Definitivamente hay racismo aquí en los Estados Unidos. No soy un inmigrante legal, vine aquí con mi visa, pero yo he sido discriminado. Aquí las personas americanas, cuando ven a alguien que tiene cara de hispano y que habla poco inglés, piensan que uno viene aquí ilegalmente. Y como soy un colombiano, las personas piensan que yo vengo a contrabandear droga. Una vez ICE me agarró y me detuvieron en la oficina de inmigración por al menos 10 horas para asegurarse que yo, un hombre colombiano que habla poco inglés, vine legalmente a trabajar aquí y no a traer droga. Me senté enojado por lo que me estaba a mí pasando, lo que yo esperaba que ellos terminaran de verificar mis documentos. En las 10 horas que yo estuve sentado ahí, ellos nunca me ofrecieron nada de beber, nada de comida. Probablemente pensaron que como yo soy un colombiano, yo tenía que estar involucrado con un narco. Yo me vine aquí porque estaba oyendo las pandillas de mi país. Aquí la gente cree que porque uno está huyendo de su país, cruza todo Guatemala y todo México, viene aquí a robar. Cuando en realidad uno viene para mejorarse a sí mismo y a su familia. Porque nosotros no venimos aquí para mejorarnos a nosotros. Y sí, claro que hay unos inmigrantes que desperdician todas las oportunidades que se les ofrecen aquí, bebiendo, poniéndose adicto a las drogas, vendiendo drogas y todo, pero lo que la gente necesita aquí realizar es de miles que vengan aquí a hacer cosas malas, aunque hay como 20,000 inmigrantes que vienen aquí para proveer una vida mejor para a ellos mismos y a su familia. Necesitan darle una oportunidad a esas personas que están viniendo destrozándose cada día, trabajando duro para mandarle dinero a su familia que está sufriendo en su país. En mi primer intento de entrar aquí, intenté de cruzar por el río, pero la patrulla fronteriza me agarró. Cuando me agarró la patrulla fronteriza, me llevaron a la oficina de inmigración donde me revisaron. Me dieron comida y agua. Después de un tiempo de esperar, unos oficiales me tomaron mis huellas. Luego me colocaron en una celda que estaba muy fría. Y me dieron un papel de aluminio que servía como cobija, pero el suelo estaba tan frío que era bien incómodo de dormir. En poco tiempo más personas siguieron llegando en esa pequeña celda, pronto se llenó de gente. Estaba tan lleno de gente que era imposible de dormir al mismo tiempo. Lo que significaba que algunas personas podían dormir en el suelo, mientras que otras tendrían que estar de pie. En ese lugar no había ninguna ventana, así que no se sabía qué hora del día era. Solo sabíamos que era mañana cuando nos daban desayuno. Y solo salíamos cuando nos llamaban a hacer papeleo. Eso fue una experiencia dura, pero eso no me paró para intentar otra vez. Porque en mi país es más probablemente que me maten que consiga yo un trabajo.
Cuando me atrapó inmigración, una de las experiencias más difíciles es que uno piensa que lo van a deportar, pero cuando vas a prisión, ellos te tratan como un criminal. En mi país nunca hubo alguien que me pusiera esposa en mis manos, pero aquí te ponen hasta esposa en los tobillos. Parece que están tratando animales. Y eso, a la gente se asusta de eso. En la cárcel hay mucho maltrato. A veces hay que hacer fila en los 15 días que te dan de comida. Te dan sopa maruchan. Y si no, te dan papas llenas de tanto aceite que para que te enfermes tú en la cárcel. Te discriminan tanto que yo pienso que si van a agarrar a un inmigrante, que está bien que lo manden al tercer día, pero no de que esté en prisión por más de un año. Por un año en prisión para pagar por algo que uno nada debe. Yo me fui porque en mi país, mi familia y yo nos estábamos muriendo de hambre. Y aquí por no tener una licencia y por entrar aquí legalmente, eso fue todo un año. Me trataron como un criminal cuando no lo soy. Esa fue una experiencia dura. Te levantan como a las 6 de la mañana para ir a la corte. En la cárcel hay policías buenos y hay policías malos. Hay policías que hasta por las mañanas te pegan en los tobillos para quebrarte los pies. Son tan malos por uno ser un inmigrante. Por ser inmigrante te tratan tan mal y te pegan.
Muchas de ellas tienen miedo de decir algo porque tú no sabes lo que te puede pasar. Yo estaba detenida por 11 meses y durante esos 11 meses yo fui violada por 2 oficiales de ICE. La primera vez sucedió, yo estaba regresando de la enfermería para mi celda cuando un oficial me puso su mano en mi pantalón y me tocó en mi parte privada. Él me dijo de que si me comportaba yo bien, él me iba a ayudar a ser liberada. No habían cámaras, así que a veces él me miraba detrás de la ventana cuando yo usaba el baño. Cuando yo tuve el valor de hablar y quejarme con el capitán, él me despidió. Pero no lo volví a ver a ese oficial por unos meses. Creo que fue suspendido, pero una vez que regresó él era más agresivo y intimidante. Tuve que vivir en constante pánico de que él me hiciera algo. La segunda vez
Fue en el mismo lugar, pero con otro oficial. Otra vez sucedió en el lado, punto ciego de la cámara. Él me dijo que era su palabra contra la mía, así que nadie me iba a creer. I was assaulted by an officer. I didn't know how to refuse because he told me that I was going to be deported. I was in jail and he was an immigration officer. It's like they tell you to do something and you just have to do it. Muchas de ellas no quieren hablar porque tienen miedo. Solo quieren olvidar lo que pasó allí. Un oficial estaba escoltándome a mí y a otra mujer a una audiencia judicial. Cuando él nos dijo que soy tu única protección aquí. Y nos amenazó con hacernos cosas si no hacíamos lo que él nos decía. Luego nos puso en diferentes salas de espera, sin cámara. Se lo conté a mi abogada y ella puso una queja oficial. Unos oficiales de Washington vinieron, pero al final del día me hicieron un carajo. Ese oficial siguió con su trabajo y yo lo seguí viendo. Después de un poco de tiempo, escuché quejas de otras mujeres, pero no querían denunciarlo porque tenían miedo. Yo decidí hablar por esas mujeres que se quedaron atrás.
Sexual abuse is an underreported crime everywhere. On top of feelings of shame and victim blaming that all survivors face, detainees who are sexually abused by staff must also face the horrifying prospect of having to report their assault to the rapist's friends and colleagues. Immigration detainees must also face with language barrier and retaliatory deportation. We need a reform. Our system is broken. A lot of families and a lot of people are being affected by this, pertaining by death. There's a lot of things going on the concentration camps that are inhuman. A lot of people, especially with the pandemic going on, are being held in inhumane detention centers. And inhuman, like they just came out saying that they're doing horrible things to women. I think it is important for us to protest here, especially since we have a white primary institution. So it is important for us to educate people, educate them in who they're voting, and who they should vote for, and who is going to do the right thing when it comes to immigration and who is not. Just as Trump say, not every immigrant is illegal and not every immigrant is a rapist. A lot of us, most of us, are second and first generation in college because of our parents. So immigrants are definitely human, and we need to be fighting for them. I think our government needs to make new laws and process in how they handle someone who comes over the border in a more humane way to go about it. I am protesting for the cruelty of Latinx immigrants who are trying to cross to the U.S. for a better life. I don't think anyone should be treated with such brutality. I think everyone is worth treating like a person. We need to be protesting against these concentration camps that have happened throughout history and are giving forced sterilization to women, which is not okay. Shutting down the camps is the first thing that we need to do, and stop giving forced sterilization to women, because everyone has the right to their own reproductive rights. My ideal reform would be one that does certain protections for the entries. Part of our current system is doing background check and making sure everything is intact. That's the good part. The bad part is how long it takes. And right now it's being pushed down that we should not be having immigration at all and that we should be avoiding all of this. The problem with that, it is that in order for a United Nations to survive, they need immigration. They need people to continue coming in, the flow and inflow of people. One that encourages and help people assimilate to America. So guiding people who want to come into this country along the system, rather than saying, it's your problem, fix it. So guiding people along and bringing them in and making sure that they can become productive members of society, rather than treating them already as if they already are not. Even data shows that people who immigrate into this country are quite productive and want to make a better life for themselves. A study after study has shown that the U.S. profit from the system of the undocumented immigrants. And yet, this country, my country, denies people like my parents basic access to opportunities that outlive all of our communities. Our immigration system dismisses the humanity of all those people who helped build this country by refusing to acknowledge that the only difference between the good and the bad immigrants is access to opportunities. My success story as a dreamer, it is only possible because DACA allowed American employers to invest in me because of my talents and my experience, not whether I had the right papers. It has opened doors to employment at multiple companies, allowing me to employ many U.S. citizens as an entrepreneur, proving that the only thing standing between the best and the brightest and the others is access to opportunities. In other words, liberty. Today's narrative, immigrants are way down on a scale that bucket us into either the ultra-successful, overachievers, good doers, or bad hombres. Job stealer, welfare loader has to shift. Dreamers cannot be asked to sacrifice their parents and leave them behind. It is paramount that a Dream Act be passed, one that does not trade the rest of the undocumented population in for dreamers. We shouldn't be spending on border enforcement or immigration detention, militarized border communities, especially not a wall on the southern border. Because the answer to America's immigration policy it is evidenced by the result of DACA. Investing in our immigrants' communities is investing in America. Thank you.